excited to be joined by a new company recently uplisted to Cboe in Canada. Please meet Richard, CEO at SolarBank, proudly Cboe Canada listed. Richard, welcome, and thank you very much for joining me today for this discussion.
Thank you so much, Eric, for this great opportunity. Hello, everyone, and it was nice to be here to have a chat with you folks.
Brilliant. Absolute pleasure from here. For our audience, in case you're new to joining us for these spotlights, some quick housekeeping. The ticker for SolarBank is SUNN. And for those of you in front of your screens this afternoon, feel free to pull it up. We're here for 30 minutes sharp. We will ask the audience, pose your questions in through the chat box on Zoom. Promise we'll answer them. If we don't, we'll make sure that Richard gets his hands on those questions so he can follow up with you directly afterwards. And if you're new to joining us today, make sure you follow us on social so you don't miss out on the next one for updates, as we'll be posting this recording online later if you're unable to stay for the duration of the chat. So to get right into it and use the balance of time we have available together, Richard, you and the team have had a busy couple quarters behind you with a number of really incredible milestones achieved. But for our audience, who's perhaps new to hearing from you for the first time and maybe not familiar with SolarBank, I thought it'd be a good place to start to leave you with a bit of time to talk about a brief overview of the company, you and the team that are involved in the day-to-day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Eric. So as you know, SolarBank is a Canadian company. I myself, in Toronto for 34 years, have worked at Husky Injection Molding Systems, senior position in Enbridge, and also vice president and chief conservation officer in Toronto Hydro. I guess got excited by the Green Energy Act in Ontario and started, moving out of my executive position with Toronto Hydro and started, investing and started to set up companies in renewable energy. So I started this company 2013. 11 years later, we have been able to deliver I would say, a very good report to the market. We have always been cash positive. We're always been revenue positive. We don't have corporate debt. We have always delivered, not only in Canada and also in the US. You've probably seen the Q3 financial reports. We gave the market when we listed in Cboe that this year by June 30th, we will deliver $50 million worth of revenue. We did 54 million, I believe, by end of Q3. We're revising it to about the 60 something, by end of this month. So a tremendous growth from this company. At the end of the day, what we are doing here is to deliver renewable energy, to build power plants, solar power plants, to deliver energy, whether it's a large solar farm, community solar farm in the States, or behind the meter, you've seen the ones on Home Depot, you've seen the ones on Canadian Tire, those are kind of corporate rooftops. So that's what we do in Canada and in the USA.
Tremendous. And when you think about how the company goes about making money today, it's working with those businesses, working within North America today, and installing those panel farms, those kind of sites for companies to work with. That's your main driver of revenues in the business?
Yeah, we, if you look at our business, to start, we are a developer, which means we identify a non-productive land, close landfill, brownfield, places probably doesn't have much agricultural needs, and to evaluate the probability to produce renewable energy. So as a developer, when we bring the project to full permitting, obviously we earn a development fee. We are an engineering consulting firm, so we have capabilities to produce drawings. We also have construction credentials. So we build the solar farms or battery storage farms or EV chargings ourselves, right? So obviously, when you build it, you earn a construction fee. We also provide operation maintenance. So for customers like Fiora, customers like Honeywell, and so on and so forth, customers like Charlie's Philly cheesesteak, they are not in the business running a power plant, so we provide operating maintenance. So traditionally, those are the three revenue streams that we do, and that's where the $56 million coming from. But starting July the 1st, we'll be owning those assets also, starting with owning about 80 projects in Ontario and in the US. We'll have a recurring revenue coming about $15 million a year as a starting point.
Wow. I see the smile on your face and obviously encouraged by the ability to actually do what you set out to do and certainly earned and deserved. I also saw in the financial press release, not to underscore the achievement, but obviously 50 million in revenues, 5.5 million in net income too, which is an impressive number to see from growth stage companies. Talk to us a little bit about what brought it all home.
So I think, at the end of the day, we are a team of professionals with a combined experience of more than 100 years. If you talk about our chief development officer, Tracy has been in this business more than 20 years. And then she's the one actually starting with a site control, permitting, interconnection. If you talk about our chief operating officer, Andrew Van Dorn, he has built hundreds, if not 1,000 of those things, both in the States and in Canada. And if you're talking about the team here, they are really committed. I think, first of all, they are here to create value for the stakeholders, but they do love the environment. From our perspective, we are, we cannot get away with using electricity. We might as well producing electricity without carbon emissions, right? So I think the people is important. I think secondly is our capability to finance. We have a huge network of financing partners, whether from long-term debt providers, whether they are investment tax credit providers, or even from a sponsor equity. Our shareholders, including a lot of high net worth individuals, including a lot of just the retail investors that they want to make their bid into this area. So because of those, I would say, combined with a healthy list of the projects, so those are the things, the people, the financing, and the project that made us here today.
I love it. And right ingredients at play, obviously, and I can see you're incredibly proud of the accomplishment, which makes a ton of sense. Thinking about the business you built, I didn't realize 2013 was inception, and it's obviously been a long run to get to where you are today. You've clearly seen a lot of the industry move around you. Talk to us a little bit about where SolarBank separates from the competition, whether it's Canada, North America, or more broadly, where you see yourself operating today.
I think for our audience, renewable is no longer a speculation, right? People see wind farms, people see solar farms, people see solar panels on residential houses and so on and so forth, right? So it's not really a speculation, but it's for sure investment opportunities. In the marketplace, you have people in the residential market, which we don't play. Then the people in the commercial and the industrial area, which we do a lot. Most of our Ontario projects or Canada projects are of that nature. Then you get into the community solar, which we are doing in Nova Scotia. We do a lot in the US. There are 22 states policies. Then obviously you do the large solar farms. We have it in California, in Nevada, in Arizona. Those are early development stages, right? So if you look at those ones, there are many industry participants. I think when I started out of the Toronto Hydro office, 2007, I think in Ontario alone, we probably had about 300 or 400 I would say participants, companies in this area. So over the years, I would say 21 years later, how many of them still here? Not many, right? I think, some of them did very successfully and they exited. Some of them struggle very hard and they went under. Someone like us that really, because of my utility background, I think the mantra for this company is slowly but surely, to deliver a power plant that is safe, reliable, and low cost, right? So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we're very focused. It's very easy to be tempted to go global, but we believe local, right? So we focus on Canada and the US. Secondly, we do very, very vertically integrated. We from site control all the way through permitting, interconnection, construction, operation, maintenance, and so forth. It's a lot of work, right? But by in this whole production chain, we were able to reducing our cost. We were able to increase our throughput. Most importantly, we're able to cultivate a customer loyalty. If you think about, the solar flow through farm, they've been doing business with me for 10 years. If you think about Honeywell, they gave us $41 million already. In addition, they gave us another 3 projects we're working on it. Right? If you think about Charlie's, they're making sandwiches, 1,000 restaurants. They've been working with us for since 2017, right? Because we are there taking care of their needs, that we are in front of them to tell them, is it performing, is it not performing, is there anything else we can do for you to help you to decarbonize, right? So that's the vertical integration. We are very diversified, right? In the same area, we have solar farm, we have battery storage, we have EV charging, and the market size we are in commercial, industrial, community solar and utility. That gave us ability to deploy our resources on an ongoing basis, so that you don't have to sit and wait because the delays in interconnection with the grid, right? So those are the 3 major differentiations that we made it to today as 200 million market cap listed in NASDAQ Global Market. We certainly want to continue with the culture we have been able to bring to the industry.
I love it. You've got an option for both Canadians and US investors to participate in that growth through the dual listing. The one thing I missed, and I wanted to come back to, because I think it's also interesting for investors to get to know you a little bit as well as CEO. That inception moment, the idea to go and put SolarBank together and leave Hydro, like where did that come from? How did you spot the opportunity?
So I have a very strong energy background. My parents are also in the electricity industry for their life. But being a utility, that we know that the last energy source that we human civilization need, well, not just human civilization, AI needs them, crypto mining needs them, data center needs them. They all need electricity. So this industry has been around for 100, 125 years. We know how to do it from coal, from natural gas, from nuclear, from hydro, by burning things, boilers, steamers, and so on and so forth, right? So as this fossil fuels is going less and less, as the environment getting warmer and warmer, you got to look, say, what is the end state? You still need electricity. Where they're coming from? Well, I think, probably the end state for us is the sun, because I joke with people. Sometimes investors say, well, you just here want to sell us your gadget. I said, yeah, sure. And they said, what if the sun doesn't come out? I said, yeah, if the sun doesn't come out, you have probably a bigger problem. Worry about your money. because, because at the end of the day, we convert light into electricity, right? So that's the moment I say, yes, I understood oil and gas. Yes, I understood electricity. I would like to be part of the team, I would say, to create some sustainable a business. So I choose to do this business. It's very simple, as you know, Eric. I sometimes I teach classes and so forth. I said, yes, the execution is very, very, very complex, right? But the concept is very simple. It's a piece of glass on a stick in the ground, turning light into electricity. It cannot get any simpler than that. If you still don't make money, you probably shouldn't be in this business. I will add also, Eric, the traditional ways when we produce electricity, we need to pay for the fuel cost, whether it's nucleotides or natural gas or coal or wood and so on, so biomass or even garbage. You need to pay for it. There's a fuel cost. If you emitting CO2, you have carbon tax to pay at the end. So that's probably 50% of your cost. What do I pay? I don't pay for the light. And I certainly don't pay for carbon tax because I actually sell carbon credit. So microeconomic wise, you are way ahead just from your input perspective, right? So that's
I'm glad I asked because a beautiful story boiled down to light on a stick, but you've also managed to monetize or avoid costs at front and back end of the business alongside being able to kind of integrate the entire client offering into one relationship. And clearly you care a lot about it, which is something that also bodes well for the business on a go forward basis. Let's chat a bit about trends because you mentioned a few things in there and spotting the opportunity in 2013. I'm sure trends a bit the area of focus as well. Looking at climate change, where you think the world is going in the future and what you see as the future prospects around the broader industry. Talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we focus on Canada and the US. If you look Canada, I think overall we are a truly environmental leader as a country. 80% of our electricity energy are already from non-emitting sources. We have a lot of hydro, we have a lot of nuclear, and so on and so forth, right? So from Canada, 80% of our electricity already non-fossil fuel based, right? But to maintain our country's leadership, that we need to looking at the 20%. There are opportunities, I would say, in Alberta, in Nova Scotia, in New Brunswick. Those states still, for historical reasons, have a higher carbon content in electricity. And those are the ones, I think, with the federal and provincial government that we are moving, doing a lot of work. On the other hand, because climate change, we don't have a lot of snow, and so we don't have lots of water. The level of the water behind the dams are probably not as good as we would like, in the case of BC Hydro, in BC Manitoba, so on and so forth, that, people are also looking at alternatives in addition to a big hydro dams. They're looking for solar, they're looking for wind, right? So that's in Canada. I would say, as I mentioned, this business is no longer speculation. The energy produced from this new technology already at parity with traditional sources of energy, right? But I think, as a leader in this country, and we look at our biggest neighbor, which is the US, today in the United States, 80% of their energy are still from fossil fuels. So the administration, whether it's Republican or Democratic, they have a desire by 2030, they want to do a big flip, which is 80% fossil fuel-based energy becomes 80% renewable-based energy. Now, if you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, on the renewable energy alone was $600 billion put aside to encourage participation at all levels of the society, right? So as you know, we earn a lot of EV charging projects because the national EV initiatives. We earn a lot of introductions from the government. We have a 30 years credential with Maryland. We have Central New York Economic Development Agency open doors for us to go into the New York governments. And so everyone is primed to making sure that achieve this. So now you say, oh, must be incentive driven and so on and so forth. I would say actually the incentives are a pass through to our consumers. Give you an example of our subscribers in the States, which I'm glad to see that is happening in Canada, in Nova Scotia, sir. We sell solar power to residential customers as subscribers at a 10% discount of their utility price, right? You would have to think why, we can sell solar power at lower than the utility. It is because of the cost reduction. It's because of the investment tax credits, because of the Inflation Reduction Act. Most importantly, because the need for our customers, most of them are low and medium income societies, that to not only reduce their cost, but they can say, I participated in the fight of global warming, climate change, right? So those are the ways that we feel the industry is going. A lot of people say that will solar or wind be the only one? The answer is no. Solar and wind have their seasonalities, have their intermittencies, So that's why we're getting into batteries, we're getting into EV charging, to overall the system at the end of the day will be a combination of technologies. But we're trying to say is that let's keep the technology, but reducing the carbon content of electricity produced, not only in the electricity business, but also in the transportation business. Right. So that's the trend that we are seeing.
I like it. And the part that continues to resonate for me in the context of 10 years building this business, it's a natural evolution of the organization plans and capabilities. And granted, hasn't been there for 10 years, but you're now hearing that problem and looking at how you adapt, respond, and evolve like a good founder should to continue to be in front of clients and continue to solve problems. Where else can you bring the offering together and be a part of another solution, which is great to see.
Yeah, Eric, you also people say, wow, it must take lots of surface, right? The answer is no. United States is huge. To power the whole US using, just for example, using solar power, you need 10,000 square miles of surface. What is 10,000 square mile surface? It's a fraction of Nevada's desert. It's a fraction of Nevada's desert, right? Even if you want to put it together. And we prefer distributed. If you look out your window, you see big parking lots, right? The solar power just go wasted. If you look up also big warehouses, most of them are still bearing. The sun beaming at the rubber and breaking them, you have to, it's a liability. There's nothing better to stop the sun using panels, whether as a carport or whether as a rooftop, right? To harvest the sun. Right. So that's where I would say if people have to go to do a solar farm in a prime agricultural land, I tell you, that person wants to make a political statement. He is certainly not with us.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
On the note of statements and maybe taking it a slightly different direction, because you've mentioned a few brands a few times. I want to leave you a bit of room to chat a little bit about the work you and the team are doing with one of your mainstay brands in Honeywell. I know it's a big project. You mentioned the kind of contribution it's had to the business and the fact that it's been there for a little bit now. Can you maybe leveraging that press release from a month ago and dovetailing obviously only what you can share with us, tell us a bit about the project, what it means for you and the team, and how that's been advancing thus far.
Yeah, the Honeywell project is actually a summary of our traditional mature business, where we make development fee, we make construction fee, and we're also making operation maintenance fee, right? So there's money, but you got to think about why Honeywell wants to do it. Honeywell is a great Fortune 100 company. Their products is in your life, whether you know it or not. They are everywhere. If you look at the financial reporting, they have huge revenue and net income. Great for them, right? But because of the decades of development that when they try to modernize their operations and so on and so forth, there are industrial wasteland left behind, brownfield, landfill, and so on and so forth, hundreds of acres in different places. The traditional way is to cover it with a tarp and then just to leave it, because really you couldn't do anything, right? So one of the Superfund site in Upper State New York that we got introduced through the government and sit down with the executive of Honeywell, and we understand the EPA requirement, the Environmental Protection Act, the US EPA requirement, the state's requirement. It's a liability on the balance sheet. So my team get involved. We studied the site. We were able to provide a alternative cap, which is a combination of a biological vegetation with a long, very advanced root system that will stop rainwater going through the contaminated material producing toxic leachates, right? In the meantime, that by selecting different vegetation, such as flowers and so on and so forth, you can encourage butterflies, bees, and the small animals, so on and so forth. And on top, that we put the solar farm, because there's a 1 meter clearance between the low edge of the panel and the ground. So So when we present this one, EPA agreed, the state regulator agreed, the Honeywell executive agreed. But what's interesting is that we are willing to put up our own money to do it. So because of this, we have to review the financial models and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, with Honeywell professional accounting and finance team, they look at this one, they said, you know what, Richard, we would like to own it. But if you could just do it for us. So that's we become a contractor to them, right? So now fast forward, 41 million US dollar later, 3 projects, 21 megawatts, in this area that supply green energy to the neighborhood. They achieved 3 strategic objectives. Number 1, they are there to make money. They are there to create value for shareholders. This one does bring value to their investors. Number 2, they are participants in the industry in the Inflation Reduction Act. So they have a need for investment tax credit. And this project provides investment tax credit. So they achieve their financial fiduciary duty to their shareholders. Secondly, they were able to turn a huge liability, environmental liability, into an asset, right? And thirdly, most importantly, is corporations like Honeywell, Google, Facebook, Apple, you can Google how they involved in renewable energy. They all have a great desire to be a leaders in the environment, social, and governance, ESG. So now imagine yourself living beside this dump site for decades. Right? Imagine how happy would you be. And now you are a subscriber, you're looking out your window, you see green, you see visual screening, you know there's a solar panels quietly producing power, and you yourself have 10% discount on your bill. Then you consider how happy you are. So because of this, now the community relations, the government relations got improved hugely. And Honeywell is our long-term partner, but they are not the only one. And as I mentioned, major corporations, they all want to do good while do well, right? So that's a great example of our mature business.
I like it, and truly an integrated solution delivery, something that is good for everyone, and with benefit both for the company and for the local residents around you. It's incredibly cool to see that come to light, and the long-term nature of it in the context of everything else you've described coming true. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that with us, Richard. Time flies. I want to give you one quick soundbite at the end. You've given a lot for our investor base to think about today. But if they're on screen and they're hearing you speak today, they've been tracking the company over the numerous quarters you've been out putting out your capabilities in business. What's one thing you would want to kind of summarize or leave behind with our investor base today for folks who are thinking about whether or not they should make an investment into SolarBank?
I would say, we as humans, have this earth as our homeland. We all understand the deterioration of resources and environment, right? We can always point it out someone else could do something, but you yourself, you can, right? Whether you put a solar panel on your own house, whether you become a subscriber buying renewable energy, or put your money into companies like SUNN, right? Because we deliver projects with investors' money while creating value for you, the investors or the participants here. We do taking care of the environment, right? So that's how you can participate, and you can say that I left a better earth for my future generations.
It's a great way to sum up a 30-minute conversation, which has gone way too quickly. I feel like we could spend another half hour picking up on a number of other things, and perhaps we'll have a chance to come back to that conversation on another spotlight soon. But Richard, you've given our investors a lot to think about today, and I know you're a busy man. You've got a lot of work going on within SolarBank. Thank you for taking the time today to share a bit about your mission, the vision behind SolarBank, and capabilities working with corporate partners and governments in North America. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with us today.
It's a great pleasure to be here with you, Eric. And also, I certainly will say for people participating in this, let us know. We'd love to work with everyone to make a better place on Earth. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. To our audience, thank you very much for joining Richard and I today. If you've got questions, feel free to shoot them through our usual social media channels. We'll be sure, as promised, to share those with Richard for him to answer. We appreciate you joining us. And Richard, certainly thank you to you and the SolarBank team for making Cboe Canada your listing exchange of choice. Excited to chat again soon, and best of luck in the interim. This is Cboe Canada signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.